is that not only because they are the names of the divine, the names of God, and therefore hold immense power in that. It is said in the Vedas that the names of God and God are none different. And this is said actually in every spiritual teaching of the world. But there's a different reason, and that reason has to do with you and me. Is that when you sing something, um, or you listen to something, it gets recorded in your memory. And if you sing and listen to something repeatedly, then it gets embedded in your memory and it will start playing back automatically. So instead of the incessant chatter that you have in your mind, you will now have mantras playing back in your mind. And the result of that is man means mind and tra means to deliver or to free. It will free you from the incessant chatter and nonsense that your mind is doing and bring you to a place where you are peaceful on a regular basis. So mantras can be found, and the best power of a mantra is not only just to listen to it, but also to sing along with it. Because then you're engaged in you're engaging all of your senses. You're singing, so your vocal, right? Your auditory sense, and you're listening, right? And if your body feels like moving with the mantra, then let your body move with the mantra too. That's extremely powerful. You'll find that there are many such mantras on YouTube Music, as well as YouTube itself, and on Apple Music, Spotify, wherever you are connected to music, you will find mantras. So they're everywhere, and I encourage you to listen and practice and chant. Um, and with that, let's begin the Bhagavad Gita. Today we are beginning chapter 6, text number 1. This is the chapter on Dhyana Yoga. So this is going to talk about meditation. This is going to talk about the classical yogic style of meditation. While the Bhagavad Gita talks about different kinds of spiritual practices ranging from karma yoga to Dhyana yoga, which is now, then Raja yoga, and then bhakti yoga. This is now going to go into what is the yogic practice and how does it work and what makes it successful. So we're going to begin reading there. Chapter 1, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna said, one who is unattached to the fruits of his work and who works as he is obligated is in the renounced order of life, and he is the true mystic, not one who lights no fire and performs no duty. So there are many who renounce the world and claim to be mystics and claim to be renounced and claim to be detached from the world. But Krishna is bringing up a very important point here, is that in itself is neither mysticism nor renunciation. I've often thought of this, that, people who have renounced the world, if they would come back into the world, have a family, have kids, have a job, and then let's see how detached you are and let's see how unaffected you are by the world. Because when you're in the world, can you step back from all your from all the stuff that your mind throws at you? And that's not something easy for most people. So if you are in that position today where you're actually working with your mind and your thoughts, you may begin to start to understand that this is more powerful than leaving the world and becoming a monk or a saint or any of that stuff. This is where the real challenges are. This world wasn't created for us to just get out of it. This is not a transit terminal at an airport or an airport of some kind where you come in just to get out. This world was designed with a purpose in mind. And that purpose is very clear in and in front of us. That purpose is woven into the very nature of this world, the nature of this world being that it is temporary. Bhagavad Gita says it is ashashvatam and it is dukhalayam. It is a place of suffering and it is a place where everything is temporary. Everything here is temporary. Even the sufferings that you experience are temporary. Nothing lasts forever. Nothing. not the happiness, not the love, not the peace, not the nothing. So if you're willing to understand this one simple fact that everything here is ashashvat, means it does not last, you will not be disappointed when change happens. In fact, you will learn to embrace change and ride the waves of change, like as they go up and down, up and down. You will become a skillful surfer of life, right? And not get drowned by the ups and downs of the waves of this world. And by embracing one word, that everything in this world is temporary. So he says here that he's summing up actually what he's talked about in the previous chapter, that one who is attached to the fruit, unattached to the fruit of his work and works as he's obligated, is in the renounced order of life. And he is the true mystic. So what is a mystic actually? A mystic begins with a person who is someone who is able to control their mind, quiet their mind. Why? Why does one need to control one's mind or quieten it? Because when you do that, you're able to connect with yourself, with who you really are. You're able to find the real self. When the mind is busy and crowded with thoughts and feelings and desires and needs and the hustle and bustle and the doing of things, you'll find that you're not able to feel who you are. You're not able to feel this inner part of you. You're just caught up in the doing of things, or in the thinking and the planning and the worrying, in all of that. So by quieting the mind, you're able to access something that is invisible in this world. That is the real you. And you're able to access the presence of this energy that is within you, the soul energy. You're able to find that also in the world. You're then able to find it in everyone else. And finally, you're able to connect with the source of everything, or God, and have a real relationship. That happens, all of that happens with a quiet mind. So this chapter is going to show you the yogic process for having that quiet mind and the importance of having a quiet mind. What is called renunciation, you should know to be the same as yoga, or linking oneself with the Supreme. For one can never become a yogi unless he renounces the desire for sense gratification. So, firstly, Krishna is reminding us of the meaning of the word yoga. The word yoga, yog, means union with the divine, oneness with God, connection with the Supreme. However you want to word it, it comes down to the same thing. It is about linking up or uniting with, becoming one with God. That you can think of God as an energy or as a being. Either way, whatever way you want to go about understanding God, it is about connecting with that source of everything. And one who has learned how to do that is a true yogi. It's not about all these yogic postures that people are doing in the yoga gyms that we have right now. Yeah, those are nice. They're helpful for the body, no doubt. But that's not the intent of yoga. All of that was designed for you to quiet your mind, and your mind was to be quieted so you could then connect with the source of everything, or God. That was the intention. And without that intention, we're just looking at a yoga gym, right? Just another way of trying to lose weight or be fit or something like that. And hey, I'd rather have them do something than do nothing. But I think in the West, a lot of the true intention of yoga gets lost when people don't bring in the spiritual element. Krishna continues in the Bhagavad Gita, for one who is a neophyte in the Eightfold Yoga system, work is said to be the means. And for one who is already elevated in yoga, cessation of all material activities is said to be the means. So There are two things being mentioned. In the previous verse, it is about renouncing the desire for sense gratification, and here it is about cessation of all material activities. What defines a material activity versus a spiritual activity? Would anyone like to take a guess? What separates a material activity from a spiritual activity?
Sense gratification.
What does that mean to you?
Anything that would make you feel either good or bad, because we get attached to both of them.
Right. Yeah. So when something is done for pleasing our senses and our body and our mind, then it is about sense gratification. The same activity, if done in a meditative way, can be satisfying to the soul, can elevate you. Think about it. When you are engaged in any activity, it will either drain you or energize you. If you are, let's put it like this, if you are simply trying to satisfy your senses, then you'll find that it takes a lot. For most people, if they want to, for example, enjoy good food, right? There's a certain amount of pleasure you can get, and you'll want to eat more and more and more. You'll want to stuff yourself, maybe. Or you want to drink, you'll drink a lot. You want to have sex, and you'll have a lot. It's always about quantity. How can I have more and more and more? And there's never any satisfaction. There's no end in sight. There is no fulfillment or contentment. But the beauty of this, of the yogic process, is this: what you're connecting with, the same activity being done in a spiritual way. What does it mean to do things in a spiritual way? So one thing Krishna talks about is being free from the desire for the outcome. That's very heavily driven by the ego. I'm doing something. I did something for you. I want you to like me. I did something for you. I want you to be grateful to me. Instead of saying, I just did something, and the doing of that is an end in itself. We look at things, we do things because of what's in it for me. It's not about what's about the act itself. So if you were to be engaged in, let's say, working, the idea would not be, am I making $1 million out of my work? But am I enjoying the process of what I'm doing? Am I experiencing pleasure in the act itself? Am I, as some people put it, am I enjoying the journey? Or am I just looking at the goal? Because if you're not enjoying the journey, there's a great tendency to burn out. There's a great tendency to get wrapped up in politics and bickering and petty things. But if you are really enjoying the journey of what you're doing, if you are a musician and you enjoy your music, then maybe many people come to listen and maybe they don't. If you are a writer and people buy your books or they don't. The point is you put in your best effort, whether it's in a job or a relationship or family, you give your all. And by the way, for those who think that others are supposed to recognize them and see them, no, you give your all and then let it go. That's the principle of true karma yoga, is put your all into whatever you do and then leave the outcomes to the divine, to God. Whatever has to unfold will unfold. It doesn't mean you don't take care of presenting your work properly, or if there's marketing involved, and do the marketing if necessary, if you're an entrepreneur. No, it doesn't mean you don't do all that stuff. You are definitely put in your best effort from all sides, from all angles, but you let it go. You let it go, meaning that you don't hold on to the outcome. So very often, sometimes you might have a problem with, let's say, a family member, a friend, a lover. You can always hold the intention. I intend that this is going to be okay. Things are going to resolve, and we will somehow bring harmony and peace back. I've seen it happen many times, and things have unfolded in their own time, in their own way, and people have come back together. It's quite phenomenal to watch this happen. I've seen it many times in my life, so I don't know if any of you have had such experiences, or where you've really let go your attachment to the work and it's led to you really enjoying the work itself. Anyone want to share anything here? So letting go the material activity means starting to find, A, it is enjoying the activity for itself. B, it is taking that activity and offering it as a service to humanity, to the people you work with, to the people in the world at large. And C, offering it and making it as an offering to the divine or to God. In this way, you begin to release your work into a higher plane. Now, nothing is mundane. There is no such thing as material. In fact, if you stop to look at it, the material world as it is appears very solid, appears very real. And in many ways, you could argue that it is. Like if something hits you, it hurts. Yeah, it's true. Things happen. You get an accident, you can break your bones, or you can be in a hospital, or you can be in a wheelchair. But the same world, if you stop and really look at it, well, let's start with the scientific way of looking at it. You look at it through an electron microscope, you'll notice that 99.999% of it is air. The rest of it is just atoms floating around in space, atoms, protons, neutrons floating around in space. There's nothing real here. Nothing. That has been proven by the scientists, and that was declared by the yogis thousands of years ago, tens of thousands of years ago. How did they know? They didn't have electron microscopes. They used the ability that we all have to tune into nature, into everything natural. And as you tune into it, you bring your presence there, you focus your attention, be that to nature, the water, fire, the sunshine, your body, any place. You just bring your attention there fully. You'll find yourself transported into a different world. There is something within all of matter that is the building blocks of matter. It is what weaves matter together to create this world. That something is energy. That energy is God. Welcome, Asta.
Hi, Rohit. So I just wanted to share something that, you talked about letting go of the outcome. So
Mhm.
yeah, as a dancer, we actually have that process that we, in the beginning itself, we do like we samarpit, which is like the meaning of that is basically, surrendering, your
Yeah.
art form, you surrender to your guru's feet, you surrender your ghungroos, which is your art, your instrument, everything to the divine. So, that itself, right from the beginning, you kind of establish that, yeah, it is not about that fruit or that outcome, but that fruit is just, it's a part of it, and it's the process that you really surrender to. So that's a part of the whole, I think, the system right from the beginning,
Right.
so and to basically achieve this form of surrender, and that is the whole practice itself is that. So I think so much in line with the Gita and everything, and so
Yeah.
I'm so happy to be here. I saw your link right now and just logged in. So
Great.
I
Thank you.
saw it in my email box.
You're
Thanks
joining
for.
us from Delhi, right?
I'm from Delhi. Yes, I'm calling
Yeah.
from Delhi. Yeah, yeah.
Lovely.
And the other thing is that I'm releasing my book in the next few, hopefully soon in the next month or two.
Asta, we look
So
forward to that. You note her
yes,
name. She's a wonderful dancer. You
yes,
can look her on
yes.
YouTube as well.
So
So I'm so
I'm
glad to hear
really
that the practice is there, and the practice that you'll do in Indian dance starts you off with this spiritual wisdom that
absolutely,
everything is done as an offering to God.
yeah. In
And
that
that,
in
that
that
is the practice. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think this is actually this is the crux. This is the most important message of the Gita. Also, one of the important the most important message is that
Wonderful, very important.
not to look at the outcome, not to really be focused on that, and not to get caught up in that, So yes. So
Because
thanks.
fame
I
and infamy can come and go. Fame and infamy can come and
exactly,
go.
exactly, exactly.
Wealth and wealth can come and go. But if you love what you're doing, you will love it because of what it is, right?
Yes.
Now it's the same thing with a relationship. If you love someone, yeah, they might get old, they might get sick, they might, whatever might happen to them, but you will love them because of who they are. It's the same practice that runs through everything. Your child may do what you want or not do what you want. You will still love them. You will love yourself, regardless of what your imperfections and what your flaws are. So this is learning how to do things not because, but from an intrinsic place. Your worth, your value. Many people who come in for therapy in my work will one of the big issues is the feeling of not being worthy, not being good enough. And one of the places I have to bring them to through that therapy is the understanding that your worth, your value is intrinsic. It's not about what you do or don't do. It's not about whether you are good enough or not good enough. These questions are actually redundant. The value, your worth is intrinsic. It is who you are. Similarly, with the work you do, it is intrinsic to the work itself that the value of that worth is. It's not about what money you made out of it. You need to make money. You need to live. There's no doubt about that. And if you make more, that's lovely. But it needs to be that you first love what you're doing, or whether it's a relationship. It's the same thing. It applies in all areas of life. So when you start to see things not as commercial commodities in this idea of what's in it for me, as people out here in the West tend to talk, but rather you enjoy a thing for what it is, you enjoy a person for what they are, you enjoy a place for what it is, then every place becomes special, every person becomes special, and every situation has so much to offer you because you're not looking at things from outcomes. You're not looking at everything from gain and loss, right? It's a whole different way of looking at the world. Thanks for that.
No, and like you said, it comes when you enjoy it's about enjoyment. It's about enjoying the process.
Yes.
So whatever it is, as every step of it, and that's what I have seen in my entire dance experience, that the process completely takes over, and yeah, the end result is just, it just kind of falls together, so I've experienced this over and over, especially in certain particular processes that, of this whole journey, of my being a performer, of being a dancer, that I've seen this happen, multiple times. So yes.
Has anyone else had this experience that you'd like to share? Where the thing you do itself is your greatest source of pleasure, or where you've done this for something, for a higher cause, or you've done this as an offering to the divine, to God. Okay, well, if you haven't, then please experiment. Please try it out, right?
I think for me, Rohit, I feel that in two different ways, one in my personal life and one in my professional life. Professionally, it's really amazing to be 60 and to be able to mentor younger people that work for me, and to do it just for the joy of being able to share wisdom or experience, or and the other is horseback riding.
Mm-hmm.
Just a complete feeling of oneness and in alignment with something much more powerful than I.
What is the alignment with Mariah?
Well, there's something about horseback riding
Yeah.
for me that I'm actually almost becoming one with the horse.
Mm-hmm.
There's kind of a movement, and that feels, it reminds me of a feeling that I think must be something that's remembering the divine.
Hmm.
because it's a deep feeling. It's hard to describe, but it's pretty powerful. And I want to add one other thing really quickly. When you're reading the verses every now and then, could you tell us which one you're on? Because I got completely lost.
Okay, I'll do that again.
Thank you.
All right. Let's continue. Chapter 6, text number 3. For one who is a neophyte in the Eightfold Yoga system, work is said to be the means. And for one who is already elevated in yoga, cessation of all material activities is said to be the means. Now, that was the one I just read. Chapter 6, text number 4. A person is said to be elevated in yoga when, having renounced all material desires, he acts neither for sense gratification nor engages in fruitive activities. Since we've discussed this, I'm going to keep going. Chapter 6, text number 5. One must deliver himself with the help of his mind and not degrade himself. The mind is the friend of the conditioned soul and his enemy as well. I think this is a very powerful verse to stop and look at. One must deliver oneself with the help of the mind and not degrade oneself. The mind is the friend of the conditioned soul and his enemy as well. How does the mind degrade us and how does the mind elevate us? Anyone want to take a shot at this? How about someone who hasn't spoken so far? Priya, Gabriel?
Well, mind can degrade us. It's the other way around. I think we can degrade, we can start thinking something or start focusing on something negative that has happened or, is
Right.
happening. So we degrade ourselves, and I feel like sometimes we are out of control. Happy about it. And at the same time, I feel like when you, there is an echo.
There's an echo. I'm just going to quiet everyone else. Okay, go ahead now.
And then sometimes, you feel like when you have done something really good, you instantly forget all your worries and all your anxiety causing, situations. And you are just in that moment enjoying that. So that also happens. And it's kind of strange that, how a different situation, let's say if you are with your 3-4 really good friends and you're having a good conversation, how you forget the negative things that are around you and kind of filling your life. But when you're alone, sometimes you just lose control and you cry, or you just don't know what to do. So you can degrade yourself and elevate yourself.
Right. So your thoughts can actually degrade you, as in can bring you to a place where you are either overthinking something or you are thinking about the worst case scenarios about something. You are worrying, you are fearful, you are anxious, and it can bring you down, sometimes like a whirlpool that is sucking you into those thoughts. I call it the trance. Very often we tend to get into this trance with our own mind. We're sitting there and just kind of like letting it keep playing and playing and playing all these scenarios in front of us, and we get lost in our thoughts. And that can just be devastating. You don't realize it. You come out of it 10, 20 minutes later and you're like, whoa, what just happened here? And you're feeling crappy by that time. You're really feeling down on yourself. But all of that was just going on in here. There was nothing actually happening, right? But how do you
the fear of happening something that makes you feel that, you anticipate something worse happening in the future because.
True, but is it actually happening?
Uncertain.
Is it actually happening?
It's not happening, but I have seen the likelihood of that happening is high.
If you would go out and do a statistical thing on the likelihood of it happening, you would find that it would not be as high as you might think it is. Because
in my situation, I have seen where I felt like likelihood of happening that is none, but it has happened. Okay. So now I'm like, even if 1% chance is there of happening something, it will happen to me. And I get worried.
No, I will tell you this, that when you think there is no likelihood of something happening, and I think I know what you're talking about, you're in a relationship, you think this person will never cheat on me, and then they do. So now you've gone from 0 to 100, right?
No, that has not happened to me. I wish that has happened.
That is one example that comes to mind using what you just said. But
There
I
you
would say that a
go.
lot of people have that experience where they are completely, everything is beautiful, everything is great, and it suddenly goes from 0 to 100 like in one shot. But the fact is that if you really allow yourself to keep your eyes open and see and keep the likelihood there, rather than think of everything as from a place of innocence that these things cannot happen, you'll be more prepared and you'll be more ready to see things as and when they arrive. The part that I want to bring to your attention is this: we can steer our mind, and this is the part most people don't realize. You can actually steer your mind like you steer a steering wheel, and you can steer it in the direction you want to go, or you can leave it and let it go wherever it wants to go. And if you leave it, you'll often find that it will steer off the road, steer you into a ditch. Whereas if you hold that steering wheel and direct your mind and tell it where you want it to go, first, remember, you are not your mind. You have a mind. And since you have a mind, you can now direct it in the direction you want it to go. If it's going in a direction that is not beneficial for you, then steer it away from there. Direct it, say, hey, we're not going there. Thank you. No, 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 we're not going there. Put it up on a tight leash. But the next verse here is so important. Yeah, and I don't want to make sure we cover it before this day ends. That is Bhagavad Gita, chapter 6, text number 6. For one who has conquered the mind is the best of friends. And for one who has failed to do so, his mind will be the greatest enemy. This is one of my favorite verses in the Gita. One who has conquered the mind, it will be the best of friends. And for one who has failed to do so, it will be the greatest enemy. Your mind becomes your friend only when you have learned to tame it, when you have brought it got it to cooperate with you. If you think that you are your mind, then it has complete hold over you. There is no control you have. There is nothing you can do. It will direct you. It will take you wherever it wants to go. At that point, you are a helpless bystander, and this is being compared by Krishna. He says, you're living with your greatest enemy. There was a movie way back, Sleeping with the Enemy. I don't know if you all saw it. It was a couple.
I have seen it.
Yeah, and one of them was a real control freak, right? And the guy was this real abusive fellow. The mind can be like that. The mind can be this really abusive, controlling, dominating. I mean, if you would just say the things you say to your mind, that your mind says to you, if you would say them to your friends, you'd probably have no friends, right? If you would say aloud the things that your mind says, if you would just say everything your mind says aloud, nobody would want to be around you. They would think you're crazy. They would think you've really lost it. I get a really clear insight into people's minds when I'm working with them, and it is fascinating how corrupt our minds, how distorted, how messed up our minds are. So Krishna is saying that he's comparing that to being with your enemy. He says, one who has learned to control the mind, it will be the best of friends, who has conquered the mind, right? Conquered the mind. It's an interesting choice of words. What's it like when you've conquered something, mastered it? You know what happens when you've mastered something? It becomes effortless. It's no longer a struggle. So I experience in my own life the struggle to come to be able to do anything with this mind. And especially if I was trying to meditate or something, it was worst. It was the worst. And then there comes a time where it stops and it's no longer troubling you. And now it's like a whole other world has opened up. It's like, wow, it's so amazing to have a quiet mind. It's so beautiful. The whole world seems like it's like a different world altogether. It's like I moved from one planet to another planet. Have you experienced having a quiet mind, even for a few minutes? Anyone want to share?
It is possible to have quiet mind for some time.
Okay. What does it feel like?
It's good.
Good. So you were
Yeah,
about to
it's
say
good,
something?
but then
Then it's
we
back. Right.
revert
And
back
that,
to our
Afterward.
default state.
right. So what is happening is you're getting a few moments of freedom and then you're back again in its grip. You've not yet conquered the mind, right? To conquer it is now it has become subservient to you. Asta, you want to say something?
No, I was just going to add is that it's a constant like you may have read somewhere, the mind is a friend. You have to basically perhaps sit with it, allow it to be running, watching it, allow it to really turn around, to be your friend. And I think that is that state of like ultimately like where you're just you're walking together, you're hand in hand with that friend, which is your mind, where it's not, so I think that's, and then in that you experience moments of silence, and you can be with it as opposed to it running against you, or despite of you, so that's my kind of.
Yes, I'm very aware of the ideas of being able to just watch and observe your thoughts. And
Yeah.
unfortunately for me, I did not have a good experience with that. It didn't work for me. And I'm not saying it doesn't work for others. It absolutely works for others, and it's wonderful. I had to use a more assertive approach with my mind. It would not bend to this observing thing. It just would not. It would just go more and more crazy, right? But I found that when I started to not first watch it, first observe it, then direct it, become more directive with it. And maybe that's because it's a male mind, and maybe it's because it's, I don't know which way it works better, or maybe it's just I'm different, but I had to be more directive with it. I said, I started off with things like saying cancel, cancel, cancel to it. You start interrupting wherever it was going. I said, no, you will not talk to me like that. No, we are not doing this anymore. Stop now. I would command it, and it would quiet down. So I use a very different approach, not the approach that I read about from most yogic practitioners or yogis for that matter. There's a different approach. And others I've come across, I tried chanting mantras and it didn't work for me. I had to command my mind. And so in that case, what it started doing was it started cooperating. It started listening. I would also hold the space of friendship after that. Once it knew the relationship between us was I was in charge, I as in the soul was in charge, and the mind was here to serve me. Now, when the relationship was established, we were able to work in a different way. And then that part of friendship came about. Then I could say, all right, what do you want to say? I'd love to hear your opinion. As long as you maintain the decorum, there's a certain decorum to be maintained. Like that. Anyone else? Mariah, did you want to say something? No?
My experience, Rohit, is very recent because I've been meditating for a long time. But your whole cancel, 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 and then just really directing the mind I'm already seeing the benefits of it. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah. So I guess maybe I'm not the only freak out there who.
Yeah, for sure. There's
Yeah,
definitely two of us.
but I think the first thing is that you have to be aware how your mind works, or
Absolutely.
how recognize how, because the thing that you are saying, Rohit, is that you already know how your mind is working. So it's something similar for me, because my mind goes very fast, and I have to slow down.
Yeah,
It's
slow
not.
down, yeah.
I don't want to go to that direction,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's like we have to to understand ourselves, or mind, because maybe each mind is different, and or
Absolutely.
behaves very different. Because I totally agree with you, because it's like a horse.
Like a horse.
Maria, we're saying something. yeah, if you have a horse that is very fast and wants to go forward, it's my mind is like that too. So I have to halt a little bit. And no. Let's make sure where we're gonna go, where we want to go, and then start little bit by little, and then maybe run, but in one direction that
Gabriel's
you
making a
wanna
really
go.
important point, Mariah, that there may be a connection between horse riding and learning how to, tame and control your mind. I think we should explore this one further.
Yeah.
I think it's a really useful idea. But the reins, yes, that's super important. And the horse needs to know that you're in charge of that. And it needs to trust you, right? And the horse needs to know that you're not, that you're not afraid of it, right? Those are all important pieces. But one other point you're making, Gabriel, that is super important, which Asta also said, which is that you need to observe it. You need to observe what it's doing, what its strategies are, how it works. You absolutely need to observe it. You can't do anything unless you first observe it. So that requires stepping back from it and watching it. So that step is definitely there. Once you're able to watch it, now the next steps will follow from there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think everyone had such great, things to say, right now, and absolutely. I think once you're able to, work with it at some point, once you've taken that step, then it's just from there. It's like, okay, it's like
Absolutely.
what this. I don't know his name. He said, the last person, that it's like, okay, I only can go this far. Hold on there, like this is how, then you can kind of work with it. This is what it things to be, whatever. Then you can basically attune to it. But it's absolutely, like you use that word, it's about mastery. It's about mastering yourself, and then really getting that benefits from it, So yeah.
And talking of the benefits, let's take up the next verse. Chapter 6, text number 7. For one who has conquered the mind, the supersoul, Paramatma, is already reached, for he has attained tranquility. For such a person, happiness and distress, heat and cold, honor and dishonor are all the same. So this verse really nails it now. It says that, for one thing, that person has now learned how to access the divine or God within themselves. Paramatma, the super soul, as the different terms, but the presence of the divine within yourself, you're able to access that. And as you access that, the symptom, and I love looking at things in the basis of symptoms, because then you can actually discern one thing from another. It's not just about theories, but actual experiences and actual symptoms. So the symptom is tranquility. Then he says, well, what is tranquility? He goes on to describe that. Tranquility is not just that you experienced a few minutes of peace. No. As a state, that's an experience you're having, okay? A moment of tranquility, a moment where your mind gets quiet. That's a moment. 2 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever. But he's talking now about a stage of life where this becomes consistent. And what becomes consistent? Where tranquility becomes consistent. How do you recognize tranquility? What does this really mean? This he explains. He says, to such a person, happiness and distress, heat and cold, honor and dishonor are all the same. Honor and dishonor are all the same. So in other words, if someone abused you or someone praised you, it would be the same. What is that? What is that state in which whatever's going on in the world, whether it's hot or it's cold, whether there's happiness or there's distress, it's all the same. How does one arrive there? I'll tell you one thing very clearly. Your mind cannot go there. This is not a mental state. So you can struggle all you want with your mind, you will not be able to attain it. This is my claim. Please disprove me if you feel I'm wrong. But my understanding and my experience is this: your mind cannot go there because your mind is by nature dualistic. It sees the world as either positive or negative. I like, I don't like, I agree with you, I disagree with you. And the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says the same thing. Ichha dvesha samutena dvanda mohena bharata. That the illusion of this world is created by dvanda or duality. The illusion of this world is created by duality. And what creates the duality? The mind. Okay, because it sees the world that way. It sees the world that way because that's how it organizes the world. It organizes the world into, I like this, I don't like this. If I don't like something, I'm going to avoid it. If I like this something, I'm going to go toward it. But wherever you see duality, whether that is in a religious person talking of good and evil, or whether it's someone talking about their favorite ice cream, I like ice cream, but I don't like something else, duality.
So
To rise beyond duality is the point of this. And so that has to be done by accessing the soul. The soul is the part of you that is non-dual by nature. And when you look at the world through that lens, through that perspective, then these things come naturally. There's no effort to find happiness and distress the same, to find heat and cold the same, to find, what was the other example? Honor and dishonor the same. That is only possible through the lens of the soul, not through the lens of the mind. Yes, Mariah.
I was just saying, I was just thinking that.
Rohit, sorry, I just wanted to say thanks for having me. I have to go,
Okay. Right.
but really a pleasure. And, I hope to basically connect again because it's really nice to talk with everyone also. Thank
Mariah,
you.
you were saying something.
I'm just kind of getting this concept that the idea of the mind and the idea of duality is really the idea of attachment. They're just like really intertwined because you choose duality as a choice. You gravitate to one or the other.
It's a fabulous observation. Yes, you're right. The mind not only sees the world in terms of duality, but gets attached to its perception.
Yeah.
It gets attached to what it sees. So for example, if you think a particular religion is good, you'll get attached to that idea, philosophy or political party, then you'll get attached to that idea and you'll start gathering all kinds of information that supports that idea. And now the mind will become invested in that idea. And you see all the chaos and craziness that emerges out of that. But you're right. That dualistic way of thinking then causes the mind to become attached to that, to its own perception. It now believes its perception, and it now, not only that, it starts developing what we would call in psychology confirmation bias. It's now developed a bias, and it's now going on trying to confirm its own bias. So, in other words, it's digging itself deeper and deeper into the hole of its own distortion. Right? Firstly, it saw the world through a distortion called positive negative duality. It then took that, became attached to it. Mariah, you brought up a great point. And then it took that point of attachment and now deepened it with a bias. It became a belief system. And now you're like trapped in it. You are stuck there and you cannot get out.
And now is what is happening in the social media, Facebook, Twitter, is totally mind controlled of the people. So they are always reinforce the same ideas. So that's why the duality of our mind now are in the society. That's
right. Exactly. Yes, what is happening in social media is very interesting because social media, what it does is it creates what are called silos, meaning to say you're locked into a particular perspective, you're locked into a particular way of thinking. And in that way of thinking, you are now going to keep on gathering more and more people, more and more things that confirm your thinking. In other words, if you think that 2 + 2 is 5, it will now gather all the people who think that 2 + 2 is 5 around you. And now you will think everybody thinks that 2 + 2 is 5 and that 2 + 2 must be 5 as a result. And it just takes the illusion and it makes the illusion into something, it takes it to the extreme. And now everybody's in this fanatical way of thinking. We thought in the past it used to be just religion that was fanatical. Actually, I've been saying it for a long time. It's not, religion is not fanatical. The human mind is by nature fanatical. We are in fact all fanatics. As long as you are in the grip of your mind, you will tend to become fanatical. That fanaticism could be about your country, it could be about your religion, it could be about your political views, it could be about anything. And you'll think, my dash is better than your dash, whatever, right? Whatever that thing is. That's fanaticism to me. My way is the best way. My truth is the truth. My opinion is the right opinion.
Yeah,
I'm right,
it's
you're wrong.
the ultimate attachment that Maraya
Yes.
just said.
Yeah.
The attachment, but it's not.
Yeah, it's the ultimate attachment, the ultimate delusion, the ultimate distortion of reality. In reality, there is nothing that is good or bad. There is nothing that is right or wrong. Things just are. And the idea that something is good or bad, right or wrong, is something we attach to it. But pull away from that and observe it. A thing is a thing is a thing. It's neither good nor bad, happiness or distress, life or death. It's just a thing. It's just an event. It's a something that happened. But the meaning you give to it, that is the distortion. That is where the mind has taken the event and added a layer on top of it. And now that layer is now defining that event. But the event is an event. It's nothing more than that. Now that leads to what we call trauma. That leads to what we call emotion. That leads to what we call suffering. That layer that the mind attaches on the event. But if you simply observe the event, there is no trauma. There is no suffering. There is no emotion even. There's just an event. I had something. I lost something. I didn't even really have it. How can I say I had something? Nothing is really mine. So the more you come to that place, the more you begin to view things simply as events. Something is happening. That's all. It's hard to do. It's very hard to do. I would tell you that it is not only hard to do, it is impossible to do, as long as you're trying to do it with your mind. So if you really want to cultivate this way of thinking, learn to take a deep breath when you're approaching a situation, and then view it from your inner eye. What does that mean? Quiet your mind, and then you'll see for yourself. When my mind is noisy, I do not trust it. If my mind is upset about something or worked up about something, I do not trust it. Do not trust your own mind. Now, practical things, yeah, sure. But the meanings it gives, the worry it does, the fears it has, no. That's all the mind projecting stuff that's going to happen, but that hasn't happened. It's your mind making stories up. All right, we will stop here. Any last points or questions?
No, just thank you, Rohit. As
You're
always.
welcome. I look
Thank you,
forward
Rohit.
to you guys again next week. Take care. I'm going to hang up over here and I'm going to reconnect again for those of you that want to continue the discussion in Loving Soulfully. See you in a few moments. Good night. Bye.